Welcome back to the vlog for vlog 227. We're playing at Capital Casino in the 1-3 game. We buy in for $500. This week was a little bit slow on entertaining hands, but the ones that I did get are, I think I'm going to dig a little deeper on and give you guys some good clues on how to think about certain hands in certain spots. So sit back, relax, enjoy. Here it comes. First 30, 40 minutes, didn't get too much to play. Had ace-king once, raised pre-flop, had a fold. Had pocket tens, came with two overcards, had a fold. Here I'm on the button with pocket queens. There were a couple limpers. I decided to raise to $20. I get called by the small blind and from the player in the low jack. So we're going to go three ways to this flop with $66 in the center. Flop comes out, jack, seven, deuce, rainbow. A very, very good flop for pocket queens. Hopefully someone has a jack. They both ended up checking to me, so it's time for me to put some action in. Figure half pot would be good. First player folds out rather quickly. The player in the low jack puts in the call. He might have a jack. He might have only a seven, maybe some sort of gut shot straight draw. Dealer decides to put up the four of clubs. It brings in a flush draw. My opponent checks again. I'm going to bet 60, and before I even get the chips all the way out there, he mucks his hand, so I guess he didn't have very much. There is a player who limps in for $3. Another player who's a big fan of the vlog decides to raise to $20. The small blind puts in the call for the $20. And now it's to me. I look down at pocket kings in the big blind. Definitely going to be putting in a raise here. Question is sizing. I decided to go for $85. It's basically three times the raise plus a little bit extra. The little extras for being out of position and for the additional caller in the small blind. The original limper folds, gets back around to the player on the button who takes a peek at his hand, kind of showing his neighbors what he has. Don't think he has very much. He wouldn't be showing his neighbors if he did. Anyway, he decides to end up folding his hand, which is fine by me. I'll be happy to take the pot. The small blind also folds. I make a comment to him like, how are you supposed to get on the vlog if you keep on folding? The very next hand, I am in the small blind now, and player limps. Another player, the same player as before, in the cutoff now. He decides to raise to $15. I look down at ace, queen, offsuit. Definitely going to be putting in a raise. I make it 60 and he calls. Flop comes out, ace, jack, 3, rainbow. Pretty good flop for ace, queen. I decided to bet small here, going for 1/4 size pot. He decides to test me right away by putting in a raise to 100. Okay, what kind of hands can he have? Well, the hands he can have for value are hands like ace-jack, maybe ace-3, and pocket threes. I think if he had jacks, he would play it a little bit more aggressively and maybe just slow play on the flop. So ace-3 makes the most sense. Ace-jack, maybe. Anyway, I decided that he's more likely to have something else than these combination of hands. So I decided just to go ahead and call and let him blast off if that's what he wants to do. So I put in the call. Of course, I can always catch a queen. That'll make me feel a lot better. Turn card is the 8 of spades. I check to him again. It looks like he's not going to be slowing down. He grabs a stack in each hand and then adds a little bit on top. Makes a bet for $225. I double checked to see if my ace was the ace of spades. I was wondering whether he picked up some sort of flush draw. But since I have the ace of spades, he cannot. So I decided to put in the call again. I really should have just jammed all in. I only had like $180 behind. And I was not going to be folding to any bet. The only reason I called is I thought that he might just go off completely. But when the 8 of clubs comes on the end, he decides that it's just a hand that he's going to check back. He can't get me to fold for 180. I flip over my hand. It's good. He said he had a weaker ace. This next hand happened 2 hands later. I was still stacking my chips from the previous hand, and I got a late start filming this. There was a $6 straddle, and 2 players limp in front of me. I decided to limp along with them with 8-7 of clubs. Gets back to the small blind, who puts in a raise to 36. Everybody else folds out, and now it's my decision whether I want to call or not. I did decide to call, and the reasons being is I think that this is a perfect opportunity for this player to squeeze. A lot of the hands he's squeezing with are two big face cards like ace king, ace queen, ace jack, maybe even king queen, maybe some real hands like pocket jacks on up. 8-7 suited plays really well against this tight range of high cards. So I decided to put in the call, and I was willing to go to a flop with this player, who is a very good player, and I think I can extract some value if I hit the flop. Well, the flop came out just as we like it. It comes 9 high with 2 clubs, so we got a gut shot and a flush draw, and probably 2 live cards to make a pair. He probably has some big ace. He ends up checking it. I'm just going to bet half pot here with $40. He thinks better of the idea of floating and just lets it go, so we win a small one. Here, a player in the low jack opened for $6, and I decided I was just going to raise to 20. I should go bigger. I should go at least 25. Anyway, this kind of invites 2 more players to come along, so we're going to end up going 4 ways to a flop with $80 in the pot. Well, the flop comes out queen high, but it does have a 9 and it does have 1 club. So I got second pair and a backdoor flush draw and some sort of backdoor straight draws. It gets checked all the way around. I think it's too weak to go ahead and bet this. Turn card comes as a 7 of spades. Everybody checks to me again, and here I think I'm just going to have to bet and take it down at this point. Board's getting a little coordinated. I did pick up a straight draw to go with my second pair. Pairs that they don't have anything, all 3 of them fold, and we take another small pot down. I wasn't catching very many cards on this day, so I decided to take off and come back the next day. This is the first interesting hand of this day. There's a player on my right who I kind of want to get involved in and maybe get hands head up with and isolate. There's one limper for $3. He makes it 15. I got queen jack suited. Not a great hand, but I think it's good enough to isolate him. So I raced to $50 just trying to do that. Player behind me who plays usually a tighter range than most people, he decides to cold call the $50. So I'm thinking his range consists of a lot of ace king, ace queen, maybe some king queens, and maybe medium pocket pairs. Maybe a couple small pocket pairs. It gets folded back around to the player on my right, who also puts in the call for the 50. So we built a kind of a big pot, and we don't have a great hand, and we're kind of in the middle of 2 players with better ranges, perhaps. Flop comes queen 7-7 with two spades and a club. I thought about betting this, but I feel that player behind me has a lot of king queens, ace queens in their range, maybe some big flush draws. So I checked it to him, and he ends up checking it back. So I feel I missed out on a bet there to protect my hand, and the 10 of spades comes on the turn. And now the player to my right leads for $100. Kind of a tough spot. He could have picked up a flush at this point. He could be betting a hand like maybe a queen. He could be maybe have some sort of big draw like a king jack with maybe a spade. I decided it would be a little bit too weak to fold, but looking back on it, I think the fold is probably the best choice in this situation because I still have the player left to act behind me. River card comes as an ace of spades, and I was planning on calling down any kind of blank on the river because he only has like $120 left in his stack. He goes ahead and jams all in, and I'm thinking, what could he possibly have? I mean, did he make the flush on the end, or did he already have a king high flush? Well, in that case, he must have king jack of spades and has a royal. Seems a little fishy to me. I don't think that's the case. Could he have, what, pocket tens? Pocket tens makes sense. Checks the flop, spikes a 10, makes a full house, bets 100 for value, gets the rest of the chips in no matter what. Maybe he's just on a stone cold bluff. Maybe he has absolutely nothing and is representing the spade. Well, I'm not quite sure exactly what he has, but I think a lot of these scenarios I am just beat all to hell, and I really wish I would have never have 3-bet this hand to begin with. I'm just going to have to let this one go. There's a $6 straddle. One player limps in early position. Button puts in the call for the 6. I'm in the small blind. I go ahead and complete for $6. Suited one gapper is pretty good. Big blind completes. Now the straddler decides to raise $20. Kind of a small sizing. I think this is just making the pot bigger. It's not going to eliminate anyone. First player puts in the call. Button ends up putting in the call. And of course, I'm going to end up putting the call, and that brings in, yes, the big blind also puts in the call. So once the big blind puts in his chips, we have a $130 pot. We're out of position against 4 other players with 8-6 of diamonds. Flop comes down a pretty good flop, 9-4-3 with 2 diamonds. I check it over to the aggressor. He decides that he is going to wager $50. Now, I played a lot with this player, and this seems just like a what I call a range bet. He's just continuation bet his stronger range. The other 2 players fold out, so I think this is a green light for me to try to just take this down now. That really shouldn't have hit his hand too hard. I decided to do a little check raise for 125, and he quickly folds. All right, this hand's a little bit crazy, so bear with me. There is a limp, a raise to 15, a call for 15. I'm on the button with pocket tens. I decide to raise to 65. Sometimes you can just call and sometimes you can raise. I decide to be a little bit more aggressive, make it 65. The small blind folds, and now the big blind, who is a competent player, puts in a re-raise and makes it 150 to go. All right, instantly I'm putting him on a very, very tight range. I'm going to even eliminate some pocket jacks. He might have 1 or 2 pairs of pocket jacks available, but not much. I'm saying pocket queens on up and some ace kings. I'm not even giving him all the ace kings. I'll just give him like ace king suited, pocket queens, pocket kings, pocket aces. And against that range, I am about 25% equity with a pair of tens. Now, about 20% of that equity comes with me flopping a set, and the other 5% comes from him having an ace-king and not improving. But that's not a fun road to go down. So even though it's only $85 to call, I think the question is, do you call? Do you just fold? Well, I was trying to figure out the odds I'm getting plus the price. It's only $85 more to call. And then I kind of noticed that he didn't seem very comfortable. Now, it's not one of those tells where you just go, oh, wow, he wiggled his ears. Now I have him. Comfort tells are probably my favorite ones because when someone is in a stressful situation, they kind of exude whether confidence or not. And in this situation, the more I thought about it, the more it seemed he got uncomfortable. So now I'm thinking that his range consists more of the bottom of that range, mainly pocket queens and ace king. If it's pocket kings, I'm going to be totally screwed because I'm going to go for it. Because everyone knows that when someone 5-bet jams in 1-3 hold'em, they always have aces. And I'm sure he knows that too. So I just decided to rip it all in there with my pocket tens against his strong range. Now, one of my New Year's resolutions was not to bluff into strong ranges, but every once in a while, I just cannot help myself. When I see an opportunity, I got to go for it. After some thought, he ends up showing that he has pocket queens, and he throws it in the muck. So yes, I got away with it. I actually got pocket queens to lay down, but it was not a play that I would recommend or one that I would ever attempt often. I just felt like I had a decent read and I went with it. And I got lucky that he was capable, because he's a good player, of folding a strong hand. I would never have attempted this with say a weaker player or a recreational player, because there's no way they would ever fold pocket queens in that situation. Speaking of pocket queens, I happen to pick up pocket queens under the gun, open for a raise to $15. I get a call from the player in the hijack, And now the player in the cutoff decides to put in a min raise to 30. Kind of an odd size here, but he's been playing a little bit recklessly the last hour or so. Let's fold it back around to me. I'm going to be putting in a re-raise here. I decide I'm going to raise it on up and make it $85. I don't think he has that much. I kind of want him to continue. The other player folds out, and when it gets back around to him, it looks like he wants to continue, but this time it looks like he wants to continue for more chips. So I open for a raise. He re-raises, put number 3 in there. I raised number 4, and now he's putting in a 5-bet re-raise. Now, I know I just said that 5-bet jams are always aces, but I don't think his original min raise counts as a raise. And I got about $410 in my stack. I got 85 out there. I'm just getting the rest of it in there because there's no way I'm going to be folding to him. As I said, he's been playing a little bit recklessly the last hour or so. I think I'm probably good here. If not, I'll put a lot of pressure on his hands that are not aces and kings, because I think that's probably the only thing he feels comfortable in. If he has like jacks or tens, he's probably going to be hating life right about now. Even with a hand as strong as ace king, he might not like it, because I just put in a 6-bet jam. And if a 5-bet jam means you have aces, a 6-bet jam must mean you have like suited aces, right? Yes, for those of you who don't know, you cannot have suited aces. Anyway, it seems like a very strong move, and I don't think he had a very strong hand to begin with. I think it's mostly a little Hollywood right now, trying to save some respect for, I give him credit for trying to make a move. He got caught, and when you get caught, it's better just to let your hand go, which he does, than to stick more money in there when you're way, way behind. I decided just to limp along with ace-9 suited after a couple limpers came in. One of the first limper plays a very, very tight range, and raising them is at your own peril. So I decided just to limp along. We end up going to a flop 6 ways. So there's $18 in the flop when the dealer gets everything situated. Flop comes out pretty good. It comes out a 997, which is a wonderful flop, especially if you have ace-9. Ends up getting checked around. I decide to check it. Player on the button checks it, and we get to see a turn card, which is a deuce of hearts. It gets checked to me again. Okay, I'm going to have to do my own betting here. Put in $15, trying to get some action from someone with a pair, a pocket pair maybe. I get a call from the player on the button who is not going to be calling with anything less than a 9 in my mind, maybe pocket deuces or pocket 7s. And the small blind also calls. River card comes is a 4 hearts. Okay, time to go for it. I decided to do a little overbet here. I decided $75 would be the proper amount. I think I'm going to get a call from the player on the button. I'm pretty sure he has a 9. After I wagered this, I started thinking that maybe the best play was just to check to him and then check raise him on the end. But I decided just to overbet because I think a check raise he might actually get away with a fold. He did have 9-10 suited, so kind of a cooler. So it was a pretty slow week in my little poker world, so we didn't have that many interesting hands to show you. For the week, we ended up winning $690, which is not bad considering how slow it was. For the month, we're up around $4,000, a little over $4,000, and for the year, somewhere around $22,000. Trying to get to at least 30 by the end of the year, so we'll see if we can make that goal. I did publish one of the short videos I got from the media company that I hired. It does use an AI voice during the vlog, and so far the feedback has been that they prefer my voice, which was a little bit surprising to me because I get so many complaints about the way I talk. Anyway, I think going forward, I'm going to be narrating it myself, so you guys will be have to listen to me even more. Anyway, I do appreciate all your support. We're going to have an exciting week next week. As many of you know, there's an election coming up. I hope you all get out to vote so you can be heard and your opinion can be a part of our society. Anyway, thanks for all you watching. Appreciate all the support. And until next week, good luck at the tables, and we'll see you back here soon.